let's go with Samantha and Barrick. Samantha, go ahead.
All right, so what can the product owner do to prevent this disparity in the future? User testing on the last product release revealed low user interest in certain features that required significant effort to develop. So what can the product owner, not the product manager, do to prevent this disparity in the future? I'm going to reread the question. Hold on. User testing. So the last product release, so this is iterative, and user testing revealed low interest in certain features that require significant effort to develop. So they released a product, an iteration, and tested it, and users said, we're not so interested in these features.
Does that ever happen in real life?
Yeah, it has to
me. That happens to me all the time. I make stuff I like and people don't like it. Yeah. So keep it going. What are we going to do? Like, what's the problem? What can we do to prevent it in the future? Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out from the question, and I have a tendency to dive a little bit too deep into the questions. I think I need to figure out how to speed through them a little faster on the test, because I'll think too much about them. But in thinking about this question, it says here on the latest product release, it revealed low user interest in certain features that required significant effort to develop. So the features were already developed, they released it, and users decided they didn't want to use it. So what can the product owner do to prevent it in the future? A, ensure all stories in the backlog support the product vision. The product vision coming from the product owner.
Right.
B, ensure that users
like it or dislike
it. I'm just not sure that support the product vision. I guess if their product vision was based on user testing, based on stakeholder research, maybe, but clearly it wasn't in this case. So how can we really trust that? I don't know.
So what do you want to do with the answer?
I'm not sure about A yet.
Okay, so you're not sure, but you don't like it. Okay. If it was the only answer, would you be like, I love this answer? No. So we're getting like, we have like low confidence. We say like, I don't know, making up new symbols. Like that's like low confidence. Yeah. All right, keep it going.
Okay, B, ensure that user stories in the backlog are broken down into the smallest possible form. I don't think that would help, because we're trying to figure out how to make sure that users actually want the features we're developing. That's not going to help us.
Yeah.
C, remove all stories from the backlog that are not selected for the MVP. And so I mean, that could, a minimum viable product is the absolute basic. There's no fancy features in that release. It's what the user needs to just use the product, to just make it work.
Yep.
And so if they're not interested in certain features, then something went very wrong in the MVP definition, because there shouldn't be any fancy features that are unnecessary in an MVP. So I'm going to scratch that one.
Okay.
Perform stakeholder analysis to find SMEs who can guide the backlog value ranking process. SME, I'm the worst with acronyms.
It's all right.
I'm not sure what that one means.
Subject matter experts.
Thank you, sir. You know what I was going to ask. Yeah. Subject matter expertise. Yeah.
All right. So that one I like the best. I think they need to go to the stakeholders and to subject matter experts and ask some questions and do some analysis. I would go with D.
Right. Eric, talk us through it. Thank you, ma'am. What jumped out to you? What's the learning points? Like, talk us through it, sir.
Well, same thing. The bottom line is that the work has already been done. So, the product owner just doesn't want to go through this effort of having to spend a lot of effort, and at the end of the day, you know, the users don't like it. So in going through the answers that Samantha brought up, you know, the first three, you know, they were decent in the sense that yeah, I mean, we can look at the backlog and also look at the stories and whatnot. But what stood out for me was the, you know, again, the stakeholders analysis to guide that backlog, because at least you've got the folks that you know, are talking amongst themselves and saying, okay, well, you know, this is the kind of work that we need to focus on, and hopefully it meets the you know, the user's requirements based on their expertise, right? So
All right.
so I'm going with D.
D as well. All right, that's awesome. And so cool. We got a bunch of D's in the house. Great job. Let me just ask follow-up. There's a lot of new people on here. John, she brought up like product owner. What's the difference between like a product owner and a project manager? Like, do you know? Talk us through it.
I would say the PM is the one driving the project, and the product owner, I would say, is the individual hoping to get the deliverables at the finish line.
Okay. Getting the deliverables to the finish line. And then product owner comes from like what kind of environment or what kind of framework? Like, where is product owner most prevalently used, do you think? Like waterfall, agile, what are you thinking? One of the two? Anything like that?
I would say maybe waterfall is product owner.
Okay. All right. Let's go into it. All right. We'll hang for there for 1 second. Let's go. Who hasn't talked yet? Who knows this, Lisa? Let's go Tanya again. Sorry, as I'm going around the room. Talk us through product owner versus project manager in your mind.
So the project manager is more predictive, traditional project management, where they are overseeing the entire project from the actual initiating through product closing, ensuring that all timelines and budget informations are being met. Whereas a product owner is handles the backlog from an agile perspective and ensuring that we are pushing the pulling the items from the backlog and of most importance.
Yeah. And so like, as we go through this, John and new people, like in Agile, we don't have a project manager, like in the pure sense of like running Agile projects or Scrum projects. And so we split the traditional responsibility of the project manager amongst three roles, one being like the product owner, one being like the Scrum master, and one being like the development team, like the development team. And so the product owner is the person that is going to make sure that from beginning to end that the right product is made for the customer. So they're getting an eye on what the customer wants. They're keeping it like fresh. They're evaluating the needs as they evolve and all those things. And they're making sure that the next things that we need to develop are like ready to go, as far as like the ideas have been refreshed and nailed down and broken down so that we understand them, we can estimate them, so that the team or the experts out there, like on the boots on the ground kind of people, can do it. And so what the product owner does is they manage this thing amongst many things, but their primary concern is to manage this thing called a backlog, product backlog. The way to think about it is it's like a repository, a tank, whatever you want to say, full of all the things that we could do. Okay. And what their job to do is to get the right things on the list. They call them user stories, like the features, functionalities, and things that the client or customer would need, and then to rank them so that the best, most popular, highest valued stuff is at the top. And not just like throwing big stuff at the top because it's awesome, but it's also broken down so that the team can actually take it, bring it into a little sprint for 2 weeks, and work it efficiently. So that's their job. And they're always like, if we just went off like, hey, I'm the smartest person in the world, I know exactly what the customer wants, and just operate in isolation, then you could potentially build a backlog. You could rank stuff, you get people working, and then you might end up in this situation where they're like, it's cool, but I don't really like it. I'm not going to pay for it, etc. So what the product owner needs to do is like take that pill of like the feedback, live with the pain, learn from it, realize, oh my goodness, the navigation techniques that I'm using to rank these things might not be right. My compass is off. So I need to get people in here to advise me and understand so that I can get a better compass, better ideas, better things broken down so that the things at the top are the actual things that the person at the end wants. It's like global maximum, like value creation is what we're trying to do. Maximize the value creation. Fancy words. So that's what they're trying to do. Product owners are a little different. They're like, go in there. Holly, take it away, ma'am.
Okay, so this is where I get a little confused. So perform stakeholder analysis. I relate that to the official term. I relate it to waterfall. So is this a hybrid project, or am I wrong assuming that stakeholder analysis, the official term, is only for strict waterfall? Or
right. So stakeholder, yes, good question. Stakeholder analysis, a stakeholder is anybody in any project that is impacted by the project, knowingly or unknowingly. So it isn't just specific to waterfall or agile. It's like any project, someone that's affected, anybody. And so, yes, waterfall does have a fancy chart where it has like part at the bottom that's like stakeholder stuff at the bottom.
right.
And so they have a distinct layer of the cake, if you will, that focuses on it because they're trying to get you to focus your brain and eyes on like scope and schedule and cost and risk and quality and stakeholder. They're basically saying, think through all the different facets of a project. But by doing that, it kind of like ties people like, oh my God, they must have invented stakeholder management. No, they just like say, hey, let's focus on it. And so the fancy way of saying like, or the stakeholder analysis seems like fancy and waterfall-y, but in reality, it's like, hey, look out in the world with people. Who do you see out there that knows things that you respect and that you can bring them in? Like who out there is smart that you respect? They're going to help you make better decisions and help you like true up your compass. So no, waterfall doesn't own that term. No, ma'am. But good question. Good question. Sweet. And it is a long-term solution. So if we get better at ranking stuff, then we're going to have just bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger smiles on the back end and less throwaway monies. So awesome.